Equity absolute return, as a lot of you would be familiar with, and if I haven't spoken about it, hopefully some of the other Prashant Kothari and Prashant Punjan, would have spoken to you about, is basically it's a multi-strategy equity product. And while we say that it's an equity product, really what we're looking to do is to take advantage of different kinds of either spread opportunities or event-based opportunities to generate a very consistent 16 to 18% return. So risk controls, risk management is by far the most important thing out here. Because honestly, in these strategies, the opportunities keep coming up. But what is important from a trading point of view, what is important is, as we see with different market cycles, is to understand and to be able to control and to be able to manage these kind of risks. Now, there's a whole, so we can go through each and every one, but and there are even more which are not listed out here. But let's focus on two of the big risks that we worry about, especially on some of the larger strategies, the options trading strategy and the special situation strategy. So I'm going to talk about gap risk and I'm going to talk about event break risk, because these are things which people don't necessarily talk about all the time. And these are things which are very critical and very important to us. So what is gap risk? What is gap, first of all? So gap is when you have a sharp move, a sharp a movement in the market, which can either happen, quite often you see it as an opening gap, or you see it from the market shuts on a particular day and the next morning it's either circuit up or circuit down. So that's the sharp move that is there. You can also have it during running markets, where suddenly there's a sharp drop or a sharp rise in the markets. And what's important to realize also is it can be on the downside, but it can also be on the upside. We've seen this in May 2009. You've seen this in when you have the PSU bank recapitalization, the bank Nifty opened up significantly. So risk for us is on both sides, and that is something that we've always maintained, that we always look at. So why is this important to us? So in options trading, a lot of what we do is basically we are taking advantage of the different implied vols and the implied vol spreads between different options of the same underlying. And here, very, very clearly, we are not trying to take any view on the market. So if the Nifty is at 13,500, we are not trying to take a view that the market is going to 13,600 or 13,400 or 14,000 or 13,000. So we are always hedging out what we call the delta, which is effectively the bias to the upside or the downside of the market movement. So we are not taking any view on the market movement. We are always hedged on the delta. But the basic premise that we have in terms of hedging delta and running these strategies is that markets are continuously functioning. So if the market moves from 13,500 to 13,400, we go and re-hedge. If it moves from 13,400 to 13,300, we again go and re-hedge. But what happens if the market closes today at 13,500 and tomorrow morning it opens at 14,500 or 12,500? Both of them hit us, similarly as such. Now, ideally, what we would have wanted to do is to hedge at every level. But what we need to then go and do is go and hedge at 14,500 or go and hedge at 12,500. And we'd still go and hedge. We're not going to take a view that the market's gone up 10% and it's not going to go up further or it's going to come down, or the other way around as such. We'd still need to go and re-hedge. But what would happen at that point in time is that we, given the fact that the market suddenly moved up, all our initial hedges have effectively gone out of whack. So we need to go and re-hedge. There is a loss that we will take at that point in time. All the spreads have gone out of whack. And what is important in such a scenario is not to say that we will never want to take a trade where we'll be exposed to these kind of gaps, because very clearly in a lot of these option strategies, we are in the business of taking a lot of small risks. But what is important to know is that no matter what happens, even if there's a 10% gap, there's a 20% circuit, you're still sure as to what is your worst case scenario, what is your worst case loss. As we say in trading, the most important thing is that you need to be able to live to fight the next day. You need to know what is your worst case loss and you need to be able to cover for that. So how do we mitigate that? There are a couple of things. One is, when we talk about risk, most people talk about only losses. One of the things we should realize is risk means upside as well as downside risk. So the same strategies that can suffer because of gap, you can also take positions which can take advantage of the gap. So if you're actually long the out of the money options, that is something where you can take advantage of the gaps. So one of the things that we do is run a distributed trading model, which effectively means that some strategies would suffer because of the gap, and some strategies would actually make money because of the gap. So at a portfolio level, the hit might not be as much. In fact, you might end up making money also because of the gap. So diversification of strategies is one way of doing it. The other way, at a portfolio level, what we do is make sure that we buy what we call the wings, which is the deep out of the money options, to make sure that we control the worst case loss. Because again, one of the things that we have to be very cognizant of, a gap or a sharp movement in the market doesn't happen just around an event. So it's not like we're hedging ourselves just because there's a US presidential election, or there's a budget, or there's corporate results. Those are events that are seen. But quite often gaps happen when market events or underlying events happen which are completely unforeseen. Demonetization. Narendra Modi comes on television and says that there is demonetization that is going to happen. A 9/11, Chidambaram coming out and saying that P-notes are going to be banned. Now these are things that cannot be predicted, and this is again very important from a risk management point of view. That risk management is not just about controlling risk around events. It is controlling risk at every point in time, because the day you believe that you don't need to control the risk because everything is okay, that is the day the markets will come and slap you. So gap risk is one big element that we look at. The other big element which is relevant to a different strategy is what we call the event break risk. Now this is specifically for special situation strategies, which we have talked about earlier as well. And we've talked to you all many times, both as part of EQR as well as a standalone strategy. So when all these corporate events are announced and we are taking trades around these corporate events, there are a couple of things that can happen. One is the trade itself can be unsuccessful, and that is something which is in normal course of events. Like for example, when we talked about the delisting trade, like a Vedanta delisting trade, which was not successful, whereas a Hexaware delisting trade was successful. Again, I would reiterate the point that doesn't mean that the risk is any different. They're very specific risks, but just because post-facto a trade has been successful doesn't mean that it didn't have risk. It is just that the event played out the way it was expected to, whereas if the event didn't play out, there would still have been risk. So there are events which are unsuccessful, and sometimes it can be very drastic. Like we have seen this in a Linde delisting as well, where effectively the stock doesn't fall off 5-10%, it can fall off 40-50%. And this is where position sizing becomes very critical. To understand the difference between a very high risk trade, a high risk trade, a medium to high risk trade, a medium to low risk trade, a low risk trade, the risk bucketing is very, very important. And that also changes over a period of time. What was a high risk trade at a particular point in time, as the event plays out, can become a medium to low risk trade. And that is where understanding the risk and position sizing according to that is very critical. The other thing is, we never bet the house on any one event. The fact is that there are 300 events that are announced in the year. We take 40 to 50 trades, and being able to diversify across multiple events through the year, make sure that nobody can get 100% of the trades right, and there will always be the one-off trade which you didn't expect to be as bad as it plays out. You might have expected a 10% worst case loss, it might end up being 15% or 20%. So diversification is always very important, irrespective of whether you're talking about across strategies or within the strategies as well. So one is what we talk about unsuccessful events. The other, and this is really played out, especially in a year like this, is a corporate event being called off completely. Now, March was a good example where things were going completely wild. Not just in markets, but in the economy, in the environment, everything was, and both India as well as globally. Now, these are the kind of scenarios where you also worry about a corporate event which should be playing out as you expect it to, you can suddenly see things like force majeure being called. I'll give you a simple example. At the beginning of this year, there were many risk-free or high acceptance open offer trades that we looked at. Some of them, we took a very clear call, like an Indostar, for example. You can take a very clear call that Brookfield is not going bankrupt. The transaction is going through. But we also took a call in cases like, for example, there was similarly an open offer trade for a company called WAPCO, which is an auto ancillary company. It's something where there was a global acquisition that was happening over a period of 12 months. And here, these are completely uncertain market conditions, and you would worry that force majeure can be called and the deal can be called off completely. Now, this is something that you can't plan for, but this is something that you need to take care of in terms of your position sizing. So the way you would position size a WAPCO is very different from the way you would position size an Indostar. And that is critical at every point in time. So that, while I wouldn't talk about, the other risks, because this can otherwise take a fair bit of time. But what that helps us do at an overall level, if you can move to the next slide, by taking care of these different kinds of risks and managing, measuring, controlling it. And I must say one thing also, that we are in the business of taking risks. So we are not people who shy away from taking risks. We are people who embrace risk. But it is about understanding the risk. It is about being able to measure it properly, being able to manage it properly, and taking the right kind of trades based on the risk profile that is there. And this is what has allowed us to generate a very, very consistent risk return stream. In fact, more than the fact that we have generated a 20% annualized return, I think what we are very proud about is the fact that we've never had a negative quarter. You might see negative months from time to time, either because some of the trades have not played out or some of the portfolios have not played out, or also because the market conditions have gone completely adverse from what you thought. But what is important is that we control risks so that even if we have one or two bad months at a quarterly level, we are always positive. And again, what is also something that we are very proud about is not just the fact that we've done this for the last 4 years, we've done this for the last 15 years. Since 2005, again, what has been important is we've never had a negative quarter. And that is, a lot of that is down to risk controls. There have been times when you see very attractive opportunities, and you just have to step away from that because you realize that the risk reward is just not there, or the position size has to be a lot lower than what would be very tempting at that point in time. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sanjay.
Okay, so that was fascinating because it highlights some of the points we made earlier. Starting with an estimation of liquidity in the face of a gap event, scenario designs under which we must be protected, and what kind of outcomes are possible in these different scenarios that can impact the gap. And then how do we provision in advance so that these various transactions or the trade positions we have don't carry us out, as was said earlier.